enormous challenge. A lot of the team really grew out of that experience. So they call it a post-traumatic growth that comes from dealing with these sorts of situations. And as an organisation, I think there was a lot of growth from assisting in this catastrophic event.
That was Senior Veterinarian Natalie Rourke from Werribee Open Range Zoo discussing the impact of the 2020 bushfires on her team. You're listening to Creature Tales, and I'm your host, Alexandra Keith. Werribee Open Range Zoo is part of Zoos Victoria and is where a new koala hospital will be built to directly help animals in need, especially those injured in bushfires or other disasters. The project has come together using donations from RSPCA's Bushfire Appeals Fund, as well as some additional funds from Zoos Victoria. In this episode of Creature Tales, Natalie talks us through exactly what the Koala Hospital will achieve and the profound impact it will have on wildlife in the future. Just a quick note, this episode was recorded in 2020, so there is a reference to Victoria's COVID lockdown. Hi Natalie, thank you for joining me. 2020 has been a pretty interesting year for you at Werribee Open Range Zoo. I was wondering if you could elaborate on what you were saying about members of the public bringing forward injured wildlife they found this year.
People are confined in their 5 kilometres and are actually noticing their environment and noticing what's in their environment. So we've had a lot of accessions related to people coming across, say, entangled waterfowl or injured wildlife in their local parks.
That's such an unexpected positive to come from lockdown. What was that like for you to see the public take such an interest in wildlife?
I think it was magical. I think it was magical to think that our stressed community, and we were all under stress, could look around them and say, how can I help? And they've looked around and seen wildlife and helped.
Now, Natalie, when it comes to the bushfires that occurred at the start of the year, can you take me through what your team actually did during that emergency?
Our team members were very involved in logistics, so preparing the packs that went out with the veterinarians to the triage centres, the trailers that carried all the drugs, bandages. So we were very involved in logistics here and ordering and replenishing all those equipments.
And Natalie, Werribee Open Range Zoo also had vets and keepers rostered at the triage centres where more than 20 koalas were brought back into your care to be rehabilitated before being released back into the wild. What was that experience like?
As far as finding them as patients, they were probably the most impacted. As an animal, they would get trapped in the forests. They just can't get away fast enough. And they don't have many defences against fire, whereas other species can flee. Treating koalas is tricky business. It's quite complicated. They're very fussy. In regular koalas are really fussy about what they eat, and they have to be offered tree species that they recognise. Otherwise, they'll just turn their noses up at them. We had many volunteers assisting with that, and the really sick koalas that weren't able to take browse like they normally would were being pasted and up on IV fluids. Then it's a matter of every day assessing each patient, how that patient is progressing and where its future lay. Some people are real koala whisperers, and we have a couple of those on the team, veterinary nurses who are just magical and develop a real relationship with the koala straight away and can lure that koala into thinking they really want to eat that.
Oh, I would absolutely love to see a koala whisperer in action. And Natalie, you've said these bushfires highlighted some gaps in the delivery of care that this new facility is hoping to address. Can you take me through what those were?
There's a real resource gap of animals in the triage centre then getting to go into an adequate level of care. While some that would be moved from triage to carers, they were actually still needing incredibly intensive management, particularly of pain relief, usually opioid pain relief, intravenous fluids. So a lot of care, a lot of bandage changes, follow-up x-rays. Most wildlife carers were absolutely inundated, totally inundated with this work. And I I just cannot imagine their stress and their workload. This is where something like a koala hospital comes in, because we can be about that long stay patient that needs multiple interventionary procedures. This is the absolute value in this hospital being constructed.
And so what do you see the key purpose of this new facility being?
Well, I think the whole purpose of the Koala Hospital in the first instance is to elevate wildlife care and deliver messages around how we as humans can reduce our impacts on wildlife.
And so what is this facility going to look like?
We're hoping to build 2 treatment rooms that will be on display to the public, floor-to-ceiling glass, so that people can see what's going on in there. In those treatment rooms, we'll have anaesthetic, X-ray, ultrasound, other surgical equipments, just ready to go, just like any other veterinary treatment room, really. Behind them, we will be having 2 large wards, set up a mammal ward and an avian ward, with multiple cages that we can keep our patients in and monitor them closely and care for them to a level that we need to. Now, they'll be in what we call the indoor wards, and they're high-level cases that need a lot of attention. And as the animals improve, they go through phases, and the next phase after close confinement will be an indoor ward with tree forks for them to sit in and climb in and sit and eat and being hand-fed. Once an animal's progressed past that stage, we'll have outdoor wards where they can be managed, fed appropriately, fed up, because they will be in quite debilitated condition for weeks and months when they're dealing with things like burnt paws.
Wow, so this really sounds like quite an immersive experience.
Absolutely. We will have, as I say, viewing from the front of the treatment rooms, and likely that we'll have audio visual of the wards so that the animals are undisturbed, but the visitor can see what we have in wards and what we're doing with the animals.
Obviously, animals suffer horrific burns during a bushfire, but what other kinds of injuries do we see from animals during and after bushfires that you'll also be able to treat here?
Obviously, burnt paws was the main presenting sign of the animals that we were seeing through the bushfires, and smoke inhalation, of course. We see many wildlife patients that are impacted by car incidences, car strikes, fencing entanglements, dog attack, poor nutrition associated with limited environment, and even in our avian patients, things like window strike. We have a range of orthopaedic cases that arrive, but also a range of ages, and we often treat orphans as well.
How exciting is it for you to have this project on the horizon?
I think what's really exciting for us is to be able to really support wildlife through painful or prolonged injury and get them out the other side and get them back into the wild. That's always our objective, to rehabilitate to a state of fitness that they can function perfectly in the wild. But, that takes time, a lot more time than some could be given due to lack of resources. And that's what we're hoping to effect, that animals return to full fitness and function and go back out into the wild.
How does it make you feel knowing that this new hospital has been funded by donations from Australians?
Brilliant. We're just so grateful that the Australian public love and worship wildlife as much as we do. I cannot imagine how kind and generous people would be towards trying to improve the life of these animals. It's brilliant.
Do you feel a lot more secure going forward, knowing that we'll have this new facility that will play such a huge role in future bushfires?
That is the best thing about the whole project. that we will be vastly more prepared for more admissions to Zoos Victoria. It is just going to expand our capacity significantly. We will ensure that more animals thrive and survive out of these bushfires just because of this infrastructure. No, that is so totally our objective.
That was Dr. Natalie Rourke, Senior Veterinarian at Werribee Open Range Zoo. On behalf of RSPCA Victoria, I'd like to thank each and every one of you who donated to RSPCA's Bushfire Appeal Fund. It's pretty incredible to see what the generosity of Australians can achieve, and I'm so excited to see this project come to life. That does conclude our episode for today, but if you are interested on the progress of the Koala Hospital being built, I'd encourage you to keep an eye on RSPCA Victoria's website, as there will be updates provided there. That is all for today though. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you next time.